I'm your host, Phil Thompson. Welcome to another episode of the Church Solutions Podcast.
And I'm Steve Lacy.
What's the episode number, Steve?
333, 334.
I don't know what it is.
Oh, I thought
I
that was a
forgot.
quiz.
Yeah, I forgot. I usually look it up beforehand. So I don't know. It came after the last one. So whatever the last one was. So we are a company that helps churches do streaming video and other tech related things. But because all of us have been involved in church ministry, we not only help you with tech things, but we have some pearls of wisdom, at least we think so, to help you in different areas of your ministry. So that's part of what we do with this podcast and the blogs that we have.
Yes. So today we're talking about 5 hindrances to church growth.
Yeah, we're moving into, last week we talked about you can grow your church in the summertime. We gave some reasons why it's possible to grow your church in the summer. And right now it's not summer, but it's May here in Tucson, Arizona. It feels like summer a little bit. And I've got my Arizona Diamondback. I don't know if you can see that. My Arizona Diamondback jersey on. Yeah.
Nice.
I actually had the Cleveland Indians one on last week, but I don't think you can see the Indians. The Indians aren't the Indians anymore. They're the Cleveland Guardians.
Right.
Yeah. So anyhow, so we're still technically in spring, but I thought we would kind of stick with this theme of church growth a little bit because even though one of our coworkers' wife just came down with COVID for the second time today, many places are opening up, and COVID seems to be on the decline in many parts of the country, at least in the United States. And so people are coming back to church, or at least they're much more open to coming back to church, wouldn't you say?
I would agree. I've been in the new normal for a long time now.
Yeah, so things are always going to be different. That's why we talk about streaming video being important, even if you're out of COVID. But let's talk about some hindrances. I wrote 5 down, and here let me just put a little disclaimer on this, and this will be on our blog sooner or later, blog.streamingchurch.tv. We have other things on there, but this probably will get on later this week or next week. But I'll give you a disclaimer. I'm kind of blunt in this, in what I wrote here. I'm kind of blunt, wouldn't you say? I mean, you looked it over 1 minute before we started.
It's no, I don't see that. I mean, you definitely can be blunt, and they all look like really good hindrances to church growth, and
Right.
maybe uncomfortable for some people to admit
Yeah.
with some of them, but
Yeah.
they're not out of bounds.
Okay, well, good. Well, and blunt's not always out of bounds. I mean, but I have been blunt. You are right. I've been blunt over the years, and I'm trying to be a little more sensitive to people. So let's just jump into it here. Church growth is going the opposite direction, has been for years, and people are frustrated with this. And by the way, it's not just, organizations go through this, and it's not just churches. There's organizations that get stuck on things, and they decline, and they go into a maintenance mode. And so let's talk a little bit about what causes decline and how we can fix it, shall we?
Let's do it. So number 1, lack of hospitality.
Lack of hospitality. So I wouldn't say, I put these in. There's no random. This is all kind of random, but
Yeah. So let's define hospitality,
yeah.
right? Let's. It's not that you don't have a greeter out front or you're rude, right? It can be
Yeah.
other things.
Yeah, it's not just greeters, although that's a part of it, right? But hospitality encompasses a lot of things. I mean, if you've got a dirty facility, your church is
Yes.
dirty. It needs some paint. And we've talked about this before, but you walk in your church all the time, and the stain on the carpet, you get used to it. Somebody new walks in, they see the stain in the carpet.
Yeah, we have a team at our church, which is kind of geared for this, but we call them first impressions.
Yeah.
So they're all about, what if I'm a new person coming in, what is my perception, not only of, people, but of things and how I take care of stuff. So,
Yeah. I remember this is a long time ago, but I helped start several churches, and I think I was at a seminar or something, and one of the things they said about this was take a look at your bathrooms, and they said specifically the ladies' bathrooms, and so one of the first things I did when I basically started a church in Kansas. We had a facility that another church used to use, and one of the first things we did was we remodeled, didn't really remodel, but we gave it a facelift, the ladies' bathroom. I think we did both, but we did the ladies' bathroom, and we just fixed it up, look a little nicer. So, we're talking about parking lot stuff. We're talking about children's area, very important, especially if you want to reach new families, bathrooms, your lobby, and you can the list goes down all the way down. You really need to have somebody come in and look at your facility with a fresh set of eyes.
Yeah, we had family in town this week from Texas, and what's very popular in Texas and probably across the South. You familiar with Buc-ee's?
Buc-ee's. I'm not familiar with Buc-ee's. Please tell me more.
Buc-ee's is a chain of gas stations and convenience store that has just blown up. I don't know, probably in the past decade or so across the South. And we were just talking about, there's actually a Babylon Bee about the Buc-ee's, and they went, way over the top about they have 400 gas filling spots and 400 pumps and all this stuff. But anyway, the person I was talking to, they said they just know that when they go there and why they go there is the bathrooms are clean. They said the bathrooms are always clean and everything's well maintained. It's got a very good set first impressions for managing it. But Buc-ee's is really, they're big. They typically, if you imagine a Walmart that is just like a Love's truck stop kind of thing, but just gigantic and with tons of you can buy clothes, you can buy everything at a Buc-ee's. That is primarily, set up like as a gas station out on the highway.
Interesting. We have Quick Trip here, in Arizona, and I really like Quick Trip. It's the answer to the Circle K, but
they're probably really good at these things where we're calling hospitality, right? Yeah. Everyone's friendly. It looks clean.
Yeah, I've got one right down the street here now, and but the nice thing I like about Quick Trip is when you go to stand in line, the person, they can have multiple cashiers, but the one cashier, you can go on either side. He may be helping somebody, but he'll say, "Come on over and get on the other side here." Just not the other side of the counter, but just if you're on the left, go over to the right. You know what I mean? And so they really get you out fast, and it's clean and all that stuff. So why are we talking about this? Well, because hospitality. This is part of hospitality, and
yes.
And if you want to reach new people and keep new people, you got to take a look at things. And I did put in this article, I did write about the connection card. And I put that in hospitality, in the hospitality section there. Was, we talked about a connection card, a visitor card, whatever you want to call it. We talked about this a few weeks ago right here on this podcast. But, the connection card needs to be a part of getting people, getting their details. You need to train people that are greeting and help them understand how to get people's details without overwhelming them and those kind of things. So that's all part of hospitality. It covers a lot of ground, but it's important.
Yes. So that's probably a key one, is, look at your level of hospitality, your first impressions, and that include both people's skills and just creating an environment that's going to be welcome for a new person. So number 2 in our list of 5 hindrances to church growth, irrelevance. What does that mean?
Irrelevance. So I think all of us know that churches love traditions. And many times we get wrapped up in these traditions, the way we've done things, the way the facility looks, the furniture, the style of the furniture, the style of the music. And look, I'm not saying that young people don't like traditions. Many of them do. In fact, that's kind of a newer trend. There's a lot of younger people going to more traditional churches. What I'm saying is the way it looks, the way it comes off. I'm not saying you change your values. I'm not saying you change biblical values or anything like that. But what's your facility look like? Does it look like it was from 1960? And if it does, consider updating some things. It can be clean, and that's good. We just talked about dirty facility. You can have a clean facility, and this may not be as important, but I think it's still important to really look at to be relevant to where people are at.
Yeah. And I think, again, back on our quick trip and Bucky's thing is very, they do a really good job of making sure it looks like, it's not a
Modern looking.
It's modern looking, and the style and the just the appearance of things is very modern looking. You don't feel like you're walking into Mayberry RFD or anything. So
and again, I'm not saying you throw out some traditions. I'm just throwing out kind of this thing about being attached to your traditions that may not mean anything or may not, it's just the way we've always done it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the gal that was putting the ham in the oven for Easter. Have you heard this story?
yes.
Have you? Okay. And she would always cut. She always would cut the end piece of the ham off. And somebody said to her one day, "Why do you cut the end piece of that ham off before you put it in the oven?" She goes, "Not really sure. I'll ask my mom." And so she called her mom. Her mom's, kind of not, it's a young family, and the mom's not too old. And she goes, "Yeah." She goes, "Not really sure. Let me ask your grandmother," her mom. So she asked grandmother, and grandma says, "Well, I always cut the end off the ham was because it wouldn't fit. We had a really small oven and it wouldn't fit in the oven. So that's why we cut it off every time we did a ham for Easter." And so a lot of times we do these traditions, we don't really understand what's behind them or why we do them, and maybe we shouldn't do them anymore.
Right. All righty. So number 3 on our list.
Number 3.
Stuck
go ahead.
in the comfort zone. Stuck in the comfort zone.
Yeah. So we're talking about hindrances to church growth. So number 3, stuck in the comfort zone. So this is how we do church. We've always done church this way. And why should we change? Because we're all comfortable here and, we like what we're doing here and all that stuff. But all I'm saying here is sometimes you need to change things up. Take a risk or two. Maybe, and again, I'm not getting away from not teaching biblical stuff. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying you shouldn't have your values, but, maybe you should reach out and try something different in order to reach people. And this is tricky. This is very touchy, actually, because if you introduce different music, that can freak some people out. So you got to be careful what you do there. But when I say take a risk, maybe spend a little bit of money on advertising. Spend some money on outreach or something like that, and see what happens. Maybe take a risk and try some new technology.
Yeah.
Maybe get rid of the overhead projector and
this reminds me of the adage that churches attract who they are, right?
Yeah.
So if you've got just a really top-notch worship band and everybody loves, is really into the whole worship band, it's kind of the center of the place, you're going to attract people that are really into the worship band. So, I mean, and it may be just an opportunity to get out of your comfort zone and try some new stuff. Not, like you said, we're not going to change any foundational things, but
right. Yeah.
It's super easy to do the path of least resistance.
It is. And, I experimented with this the last church I was in. I was the executive pastor. And so we experimented. We did some things differently. And some of them came off well and some of them didn't. And I'm not saying you have to completely change it, maybe just add a different element. maybe in your order of service, maybe add a different element in the order of service, the way you do things, maybe change it up a little bit
Yeah.
occasionally,
Or
something different,
how many services or when those services are.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are a little
Those
more, but
are,
yeah.
yeah, I know that at our church we have Saturday and Sunday services,
Yeah.
and they made a change where they moved the Saturday afternoon service from 5 to 4. And I think it was a big hit. They were trying to draw people into the Saturday service because Sunday was getting crowded.
Right. Right.
And 4 worked out really well because people would get out of church and then go to dinner. So
Yeah.
as
Exactly.
opposed to on a Saturday night showing up at the restaurant at the super crowded time, you can get there early.
There you go. So, those kind of things I think are something to think about, experiment with. I mean, another area is look at your leadership team. Do you have any young leaders? Do you have any up and coming people in your church that could be potential leaders? So, give them a little bit of responsibility. Yes, it could be uncomfortable. I've seen people, we let people get up and speak, doing something, and it was a little awkward and uncomfortable the first time or two, but then it helped them grow, and they got on track. So there's a lot of things you can do. I would just simply say, spend some time with God, spend some time with your leadership team, and talk about this a little bit. What can we do? Are we in a comfort zone? Are we stuck in a comfort zone? And if so, what could we do to maybe make some changes? And don't make anything real radical, and don't do a bunch of stuff, but consider doing some things.
All right. So number 4 on our list, your church doesn't really care.
Yeah, this is a blunt one here. I mentioned bluntness. I know this does sound harsh, but and I've experienced this with other churches. They really don't care about church growth. They like, and this kind of goes with comfort zone stuff. They like the size that they are, and they don't want to grow. And the end result is they don't really care that much about visitors. They might say they do, but if you really want to grow, if you really want to reach people, you need to start caring, and that involves many different things. And so your church really doesn't care. Now, look, let me just say this, and you can add whatever you want to add to this thing. A big part of this is pastoral, which we'll get into in a moment, but your lead pastor, and if you're one listening right now, don't take this too harshly, but the lead pastor really has to lead the way in helping your church grow and change. And so, if the church doesn't really care about new people or about these things we're talking about here, they're just too comfortable. Guess who bears the responsibility for that? At least a big part of it, I believe, is the leadership team, and the senior pastor, I think, is a big part of that. So you're out front of everybody. You've got to instill it in people that, hey, we need to start caring about people. I've told this before. I'll tell it again. We had people, when I helped this church get going, I was executive pastor, and they moved into a new facility, and all of a sudden they went from 30 people to 75, 80, almost 100 people almost overnight, and they just weren't used to it. And so there would be people standing in the corner, and all these new people would be coming in, and nobody would greet them, nobody would be friendly to them. And this may not fall into the category of they don't care, but they were certainly ignorant of it, of what they needed to do. And until we really, I don't want to say hit them over the head, but until we really push this with our leadership team and really say, look, we've got to get out of our comfort zone. We've got to get out of our corners talking about football, and we need to spend some time with people that are coming in.
Yeah, I know. I've been guilty of this. Been parts of churches back when I lived in California, and we just had the just right size, and everybody was comfortable, and it really wasn't a priority to grow. It was kind of well, shoot, if we grow, then it's gonna, like you said, deal with new people, and that.
And new people are messy, I mean,
Yes, that's
you run
true.
into people that, you run into some people that are like, ugh, but and there's a lot more we could have put on this list. I mean, even the way we present things and the language we use. And when I say language, I mean I'm talking about the good old-fashioned word Christianese. Talking about things that people don't really understand, especially if they're new to the faith. But you really gotta, you really need to make an effort to engage in the community that's coming. And by the way, not just your people coming in the door of your church, but also look outside your walls and what's going on in your city, what's going on in your town. Just maybe, you guys should be more involved in some of the community things. Help the food bank out, help the Gospel Rescue Mission out, help some of these areas that you as a church and members of your church could be involved in, and not just to get people to come to your church, but to help your community.
Exactly. All right, and you referenced this last item, pastoral leadership.
Yeah, I got out my soapbox, but let me get back on it.
Yes.
Yeah, it really comes down. I know it's hard to hear this, but it really comes down to the pastoral leadership. Now, look, I know you got to deal with a board, depending on what kind of group you've got, what kind of denomination you've got. You've got a leadership team, a board. But the bottom line is you've got to lead. You've got to lead in these areas that we're talking about here. And, if the pastor doesn't understand about it, and look, most pastors, if you're really called to pastoral ministry, you're not necessarily called to evangelism. You're called to shepherd people, to comfort people, maybe to teach the scriptures. Evangelism may not be your calling. But the bottom line is it's everybody's calling. And as a leader of the church, even if you may not be an evangelist, it may not be your gift or your personality, you can still evangelize and you can still emphasize it. And you can even talk to other people that may have that gift and incorporate them more in your life so that you can really help people understand how important it is to reach out to people.
Yeah. And it's, I go to the point where I'm thinking, my church I've been with for forever, few decades now. If the church was able to retain everyone that's come to the church, that church would be probably 10 times the size that it is right now. And so you're constantly seeing, if you're not constantly seeing new people, you're going to have people that are leaving. So you're going to die. You're going to be you're going to have a slow decay. So if you don't focus on the evangelism side of it and keep reaching out, because it's not a good fit for everybody. And a lot of people will come and may come a few times and 6 months later they move on and they're doing something else. And so,
sure.
Yeah, we've had.
And this is 2022 now, right? I mean, our society is more mobile than ever. So even if you've got happy people in your church, there's a good chance they may leave because they're getting a job somewhere else,
Yes. Yeah. Yes, we would be, my pastor, I'm sure he would just be, oh my gosh, if I could only kept, 30% of everybody, it would be a mega church.
Well, yeah. And I mean, and that term itself scares a lot of people. You may not want that, but the bottom line is you want to grow and reach people. And as you just alluded to earlier, you're not for everybody, but you certainly don't want to chase out somebody that maybe you can help, maybe a family you can reach that might be a good fit, but because you didn't do these things that we just mentioned, they end up being hindrances. And the people left, So there's a lot to this, but I've told this story before. I'll tell it again. There's a church here in Tucson, or was here in Tucson. It was called First Baptist Church. It was like close to downtown, off of 6th Street, 6th Avenue, and 5th, I think. Big building. You've seen it a lot of times, Steve. It's been there forever. It's big pillars and all that stuff. And I remember when I was working at the radio station, because we had churches, we were involved in churches. At the Christian radio station, they had over $1 million just sitting in their bank account. This is like 1990 or something. And they had $1 million sitting in their bank account, and they had like 30 people in the church. And most of them were over 75 years old. And at one point in the 40s and 50s, in 1960s and maybe a little longer, they had really a dynamic pastor, and they were a church that really, was reached the city of Tucson, was well known. But then, he eventually passed away, and they got other guys, and so the bottom line is the money ran out, and the church is gone. Now somebody else is in the facility now, and they sound like they're doing a really good job. I think it's called City Church or something. I think my former general manager goes there, Doug Martin. But what I'm getting at is you've got to be always focusing of looking outside yourself, looking outside your walls, and really emphasizing that to your leadership team, to your people, to yourself, And I'm not an evangelist, but I helped my church grow. Several churches I was involved in, I helped them grow. And I'm not an evangelist, but I understood the importance of reaching out, not being inward.
All right. Okay, we made it.
There we go.
5 hindrances to church growth.
Yeah. So this will be on, I think this will eventually be over at blog.streamingchurch.tv. So feel free to look at it. We'd love to get your feedback on this. You may disagree with some of this, or you may have some things to add. I think it might be important to do. So by all means, get back to us. You can always send us an email, support@streamingchurch.tv. I think we're the only tech company that actually really reaches out and does these things besides tech stuff, And it's because all of us have experience. We don't just do tech stuff. We work with our churches, and we have so for years. So as we wrap this up, I want to remind you, check out mychurchdaily.com. The Church Solutions podcast is brought to you by mychurchdaily.com. Check it out. It allows your church to be on Alexa devices, Amazon Echo devices. You can do flash briefings. Millions of people, and it's growing. Millions of people have those smart speakers. I think that's what you call them, Steve, right? Smart speakers? Is that
Yeah.
right? They're smart. And so lots of people have them all over the world, especially in the United States here in North America. Your church can have a short little flash briefing every day if you wanted to. We make it very easy to do that. mychurchdaily.com. Check it out. There's a free trial. And as always, we will help you. We'll help you do it. We'll help you get set up and do it, and you'll see connecting with people.
Amazon is now releasing a new home robot that is based on Alexa.
Really?
And what's the Astro? That's the dog's name in the Jetsons, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah,
that goes back a long ways, but yeah, I think so.
Yes. I think that's what they call it. It's just starting to be rolled out. So you too can be on the home robots in all the homes in the U.S.
Yeah, you just freaked everybody out.
I know.
Like, oh my gosh, robots! I don't want to do that. So we're not talking the same thing here. We're talking Alexa devices, which I don't know, maybe, yeah.
This is one. It's one that's on wheels that runs around your house.
Oh,
it's
great.
it's 90% Alexa device.
Oh boy. Something else to get stuck under the bed. Okay.
Yes.
So, all right. I'm not going to go there. All right. So, folks, thank you so much for spending some time on this podcast. We hope it helps. That's what we want to do, is encourage you and help you. So thank you, Steve Lacy, for being a part of things today.
Oh, it's good to be here.
And I'm your host, Phil Thompson. Please take care of each other and yourself, and catch us again. Subscribe to the Church Solutions podcast at your favorite place to get your podcast, and we'll be there. Please take care of yourself and each other. Until next time.